Happy Monday morning and welcome to the Rundown. I'm your host, Craig DeLuz.
And I'm your co-host, Mike Piwowarski.
Mike Piwowarski. He's going to say that different every single time, aren't you?
Every time.
He did say that last time, so at least we know that you are a man of your word.
Consistent so far in the first two episodes.
All right, folks. Well, let's actually jump right into the news stories because we got a few, at least one that is going to be at least it's a pretty big deal to me. Now, you guys all know Colion Noir, right? We're all familiar with who he is.
Right.
Colion Noir has been a solid and sound voice on the Second Amendment for years. It doesn't hurt that he happens to be of a darker skin pigmentation.
Yeah, he is.
It does not hurt that he is a brother, but he's also a lawyer. So when he talks about and he analyzes whether it's legislation or anything along those lines, he does so very factually, and he really kind of gets down to the point. And he does it based on the law. Well, interestingly, he was recently basically was both doxxed, as well as misrepresented and lied about by a writer with PolitiFact. Let me just do this real quick. I'm going to show you a couple of real quick clips from the video that he did where he talked about it. So check it out real quick.
On March 11, 2021, I released a video titled 90% of Americans do not support universal background checks, HR 8. I made the video in response to U.S. Representative Mike Thompson, who tweeted that HR 8, a universal background check bill, has bipartisan support from 90% of the American people. In my video, I stated that this is not true because the polls where Mike Thompson got this 90% number from were misleading because they didn't ask about universal background checks, which are different from the regular background checks that we already have. I further stated that if the people who were polled understood the distinction between a background check and a universal background check, and that a universal background check can't be enforced effectively without a national gun registry, I highly doubt 90% of Americans would agree with a universal background check. 4 days after I released my video, I got an email from a guy named Tom Kirshner. According to his LinkedIn, Tom is a national freelance reporter who works primarily for PolitiFact. He's also a regular contributor for the New York Times, Associated Press Sports, other magazines and websites, and has 35 years as a newspaper reporter. Here's what Tom's email said. Colion, I'm doing a PolitiFact fact check article on this statement from your March 12th Facebook post where 90% of Americans do not support universal background checks. If you have any evidence to support the statement beyond what's in the post and the video, please send by noon Central Time today. Thank you. That same day, PolitiFact released an article from Tom claiming that my video was flagged as part of Facebook's effort to combat false news and misinformation on its newsfeed, and that my video was false. All you have to do is search guns on his Twitter feed, and the vast majority of his gun tweets are anti-gun tweets from politicians and PolitiFact articles that he's written to disprove gun arguments. The timestamp on when Tom sent this email was at 8:46 a.m., yet he gave me a 12 p.m. deadline to respond. At 12:50 p.m., I got a text message from a friend with a link to the article. As far as I'm concerned, Tom already had that article written before he sent the email. If Tom was really trying to be objective, as PolitiFact claims to be, at bare minimum, he would have given me 12 to 24 hours to respond, not less than 4 hours. But Tom had no intentions on actually being objective. He just wanted the appearance of it so that he can say in the article that he reached out to me, but I never responded to his email. And ironically enough, that's literally what he did. But neither his post nor an accompanying video provides evidence to back up his claim. He did not reply to our email. What makes it even more evident that this was a hit piece is the fact that Tom tries to dox me and then drag me through the mud with an out of context statement. Colion Noir is not my real name, and for good reason. I'm one of the most public voices on one of the most controversial issues in this country. My real name is tied to my mom's address, who lives alone, and I have a lot of people who hate me for my stance on the Second Amendment. So yes, I use an alias, and I understand that I am a public figure, but Tom tosses out my government name halfway through the article when it has nothing to do with the argument.
All right, so to be clear, all right, the first thing that happened was that they basically got a hold of him and gave him like, a deadline. You have 2 hours or 3 hours to get us this information. With a general question, do you have anything that supports this? Right?
Right.
Then number two, not only that, but they flat out lied on him. Right? They misrepresented the issue. They said he said something that he didn't say.
Right.
And then they said something that they didn't say, and had basically then proceeded to pick apart an argument that he didn't really ever make.
Yeah, it's just horrible tactics the whole way around. They drop him an email from an undisclosed name that he's never seen before, and it says, Mr. Noir, you have, it is 9 a.m., you have until noon to respond, otherwise we're going to print this story. You know what? I'm not checking my spam folders every day. I'm not checking junk emails. I'm not checking stuff for people that I don't know who they are. Listen, it could have been in his regular email box. Horrible tactic. They were trying to bait him, and they'd already had their story printed. You knew that because they'd already had the misquotes.
Well, see, and here's the reason why I know this is true, because it happened to me.
Yeah.
PolitiFact did the same exact thing during when I was working for the Firearms Policy Coalition. They reached out and they basically on a Friday evening at 6 o'clock, they said, we're going to run this story tomorrow. You have till 9 a.m. the next morning to run this, to correct this story or to give us information supporting whatever it is. And sure enough, 9 o'clock the next morning, the article ran and never even given an opportunity to actually rebut what it was that they said.
Right.
So, and once again, if you read the article, like Colleen said, if you read the article by the guy, he's clearly anti-gun.
Right. Yeah, there's no doubt whatsoever. This was a anti-gun, hit piece involving, Colleen.
Exactly. So there's a link to the full video in the description to this video if you want to check it out. Check out his whole video because I think he makes some really fantastic points. If you guys aren't already following him, which I don't know why you're not already watching his stuff, but if you're not, you need to be. And by the way, it's good stuff to share with people who are not even necessarily pro-gun.
Right.
Once again, because he does break it down so factually. So good stuff there. All right, item number 2. And this is an interesting one. Joe Biden. Now, Joe Biden basically said he made a commitment during the campaign that he was not going to raise taxes on anyone earning under $400,000 a year. Well, guess what happened?
Yeah, listen, Joe Biden lied. Yeah, I'm going to guess. Listen, he also said he wasn't going to do fracking. He also said he was going to, work on immigration to reach across the table. All these little lies. Are you getting it yet, folks? Are you feeling it yet? Do you see how much he lied? He stood up there on stage with President Trump during the debates and said, "I've never said that, and this is what we're going to do, and it's going to be $400,000." Just flat out lie. 49 years of lying to you, and 50% of the voting public in this country was okay with that, and it's happening again. Are you happy? You look at your gas prices yet? You see what's going on?
Folks, the point is this, is that first of all, I don't know that Joe Biden is even really mentally present there. I mean, I think what happened was they decided that they were going to raise taxes, and so they sat him down with an afternoon tapioca, which got him really excited because they normally don't let him have tapioca in the evening.
Yeah, it's like a Friday night thing.
Right,
yeah.
It's like a Friday night thing, and that's usually what they do when they have to tell him bad news. So they told him, yeah, you know about your promise to not raise taxes on anyone under $400,000, earning $400,000 or less. Yeah, we're going to have to break that. And he's like, oh, well, that's so sad. Can I have another tapioca?
It's coming quite that bad. I watched him earlier this week get on TV, and the first time I'd seen him on TV in quite some time, called Putin a killer, and said he had to get back at Putin for the 2020 Russian election interference. The guy's not there. They're propping this guy up to get him to sign executive orders and take the blame for extreme things that they want to do. And when they're done with them 3, 4, 5 months from now, they're going to kick him to the curb and push Kamala up to the top.
That's pretty much the plan. By the way, Kamala, who no one actually voted for.
No. You remember their primaries? Yeah, she was out pretty quick.
No. She was never in the primaries. Let us not be mistaken. She got out because no one would vote for her.
Right.
The person that in particular the black community is propping up as the model, black people weren't supporting her. They were not supporting her for president. And now she's next in line. She's a
heartbeat away.
A heartbeat away. Yeah. One non-tapioca, one missing tapioca away.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Just all bad. All bad. All right, so folks, look out for that. If you guys are making big money and you live in places like New York or San Francisco where you have to actually make that kind of money to live in a decent home or anything like that, know that your taxes will be going up thanks to the guy you probably voted for.
Yeah, you just went to, remember the promise. It was, it's only going to apply to the rich, over 400,000. Well, You know what? Middle class just took it in the shorts on this one.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Talking about taking it in the shorts, David Hogg. David Hogg has a pillow company, or they talked about the launching of a pillow company. And he wanted to do this because he wanted to go after the founder of My Pillow. And, he seems to be a popular punching bag these days. But so they wanted to go after My Pillow because My Pillow tends to support Donald Trump, supports conservatives, conservative values, all of these various different things. So he wanted to start a pillow company. Well, evidently he has lost the pillow fight.
Listen, Mike Lindell has been a great supporter of conservatives of the Constitution, of Donald Trump, and listen, if you're watching us, you know what happened with the election. You know the amount of election fraud that was out there, and Mike has been a huge proponent of trying to get to the bottom of it because he said, you know what, I got the money. They can't bankrupt me like they can somebody else. I will push and I will fight until we get to the end of this. Well, that Hogg kid, he just, I'm sorry I hadn't been on camera in 2 weeks. He's got to say something else to get back on camera. He decides he's going to open up his own pillow company. I'm going to fight against My Pillow. Well, there was a little fact though. They released a story saying he's got more Twitter followers than even My Pillow has, than Mike Lindell ever had with this new pillow company. But I guess the one thing they forgot. You know what they forgot to do, Craig?
Sell pillows?
Yeah, actually create a pillow company. They checked all the trademark and all the registries. It's never even been a thing. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's so once again, it just goes to show that 99.9% of the time, the anti-gun community and the left, they're mostly talk. They're almost all talk. And so that's why it's important that we do things like we support people like Mike Lindell, like My Pillow, like these companies that are standing up and supporting conservatives, not even conservatives, traditional American values. All right, it's not conservative. These are the values upon which this nation was founded and that have made this country great. And as we veer away from them, we wonder why more and more parts of America are starting to look like forgive the phrase, but I will quote our former president, shithole.
Yeah.
Look, I'm only 90 minutes from San Francisco, so I know what a shithole looks like.
Yeah, it's like you got the whole rim covered there and shit. It's just it's everywhere. Yeah.
Sorry, forgive the language, but I was quoting the president.
That's right.
I can do that. All right, so talking about S-holes, New York and New York City.
Oh, boy.
All right, so we all know all the things that are going on, whether it's dealing with COVID, whether it's dealing with high taxation, all these various different things. Well, Mayor de Blasio, there in the city of New York, has decided that since there has been an increase in attacks on Asian Americans or Americans of Asian descent, and I'll just say, yes, from what I've seen, the statistics I've seen, there has been an increase. Now, it's not because, and they want to, how it is, they want to blame former President Trump, and they want to say because he pointed out that the Chinese lied to us about the coronavirus, that they actually allowed people to travel here knowing they had an outbreak in China. The fact that he says that, well, that's fomenting hatred against people of Asian descent.
Yeah.
Well, so now what he's done is he's basically made it and put a directive out towards the police. He said New York police should be able to stop people or question people if they have done anything or said anything that can be deemed or has been deemed offensive against Asian Americans.
He went as far as to say anything that had anti-Asian sentiment. Not a hate crime, not racist statements, just anti-Asian sentiment. You know what, Craig? What do you want to go for dinner tonight? You want to get some Chinese food or you want to get some steaks? I'm not feeling Chinese.
I'm not feeling Chinese. I'd rather have steak.
Well, that's anti-Asian sentiment. I'm going to have to call the police now.
Oh my. Am I going to have to go to racial sensitivity training?
You're going to have to. And what he said is
no. I need to go to anti-whiteness training. Like anti-racism training. There you go.
What de Blasio has said. By the way, de Blasio is not his real name, right? He thought it sounded better than Wilhelm if he was going to be running for mayor there. It sounded more multicultural in the city. Not a lie. Look it up.
Wilhelm?
Yeah, yeah.
More multicultural than Wilhelm.
So you have him, and he has said, now let's put police on this, because if there's anti-sentiment towards the Asians, that's going to lead to racism, and racism is going to lead to hate crimes. He's already assumed that if Greg and I don't want Chinese food tonight, we're going to be killing Asian people. That's his assumption. This guy's he's a whack. He's a crackpot. There's nothing left of that city left. Try going up there. First off, make sure you stand next to a police officer, because you're going to need an armed escort through that town. You can't have your own firearm in that town. There's less than 10% of the people there, but the violent crime rate's up over 100%.
Well,
what's that mean? That means that one guy standing on the corner is getting robbed a lot. That's what's going on.
Well, what's the thing is and this is. And that is not just dealing with this issue in particular with Asian Americans, but every single time something happens to a person who is part of a protected class, right? Whether they're Asian, whether they're black, whether they're Jewish, whether they're whatever it is. And by the way, being a white male Protestant does not, straight white male Protestant means there's no way you can claim victim status. But if you're everyone else is part of a victim class or a protected class. But every time something happens to someone in that class, they always tie it to race.
Always.
And I'm not saying it's never race. I'm just saying, why is that always your first go-to? You had the case of the shooting in Atlanta, Georgia, where this individual who went around to a bunch of massage parlors, rub and tugs, and basically shot 9 people. And this is a horrific crime. This is someone who needs to be dealt with by the law. And what he did was wrong. And when he said why he did it, he said, well, I have a sexual addiction, and I just felt this was the only way to remove the temptation. Once again, no excuse, but he said why he did it, right? People were like, well, the police said, well, we're not going to, well, they pointed out that's why he did it. That's what he said why he did it. They said they're not going to, at this point, rule out a hate crime.
Right.
And the only thing you saw in any of the headlines was Asian Americans attacked. And police refused to rule out a hate crime. But here's my question, and riddle me this. If he's a white supremacist and he wants to send a message to the Asian community that they are not welcome, saying if this is what he wants to say, then why wouldn't he just say that?
Because that doesn't get him votes or get him a new job when he's ready to leave office.
No. I mean the guy, the attacker.
Oh,
why doesn't the attacker say that?
Oh, listen, and we know more about that now than the news has let out. Listen, it had nothing to do with attacking Asian people. It had to do with attacking sex workers. If the Romulans had been running those massage parlors, there would have been 9 Romulans shot. The guy had nothing to do with Asians. It had everything to do with the temptation for sex. The kid's a little wacky, and clearly a little wacky, and did this horrible, evil act. Oh, and by the way, he did their background check, Craig. So I don't know how this crime occurred. He did the background check and passed.
So they obviously should have caught him. But here's the other thing, and that's, by the way, the other thing that they're coming after. Is they're like, well, background checks. Well, no, background check. He went through the background check, so that didn't solve the problem. But here's the other thing, and this is the thing that really gets me. This was an opportunity to expose the exploitation of not just women. We're talking young girls, because they said the average entry into sex work is 12 to 14, right? Here was an opportunity. There are many, many women who are brought to this country specifically to be sex slaves, to specifically work in some of these places. And I'm like, here was an opportunity for the media to expose that, to pressure that. And sure enough, guess what?
Right.
They decided, no, we want to go after guns. And Trump, guns and Trump.
Right. This wasn't Asian American.
Right.
These were, they keep hearing they went after Asian Americans.
Right.
These were Asian immigrants, many of which that were here illegally, some of which that were here legally. Mm-hmm. That's the word you get when you actually look and try and find the real information rather than believe this fake news that's coming out. And again, it's got nothing to do with Asians, but this was the perfect opportunity, as Craig said, to go after human smuggling, to go after sex trafficking, to go after the slaves, basically, that were in these massage parlors until they could earn their way out of captivity, basically.
Exactly, but they're not interested in actually fighting.
Got to go after the gun. We can go after the gun.
Go after the gun.
Yeah.
Kind of like what's going on in Portland? You have in Portland, you had them vote to defund the police, right? They voted to defund the police. And in the year following their defunding the police, guess what they saw? A 2,000%.
Well, Craig, I think you said that wrong. What was that number again?
2,000%. 2,000% increase in crime in the city of
And
Portland.
murder.
And murder.
In murder.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I stand correct. You're right.
Yeah.
In murders.
Yeah.
2,000% increase in murders.
Yeah.
Let that sink in.
That's a little bit. That's a lot.
That's just a little bit of an increase.
Yeah. They didn't have the money to fund the police. The police are out there being proactive. The police are more hands off. Well, guess what's going to happen? Bad guys going, oh, nobody to the left, nobody to the right. I guess I'm going to do what I want, which has included killing people. 2,000% increase in murder. And now they're trying to get an emergency funding because we need more police. I'm sorry, didn't you just defund the police? Wasn't that your solution?
Yeah. Well, but the thing was, those were Trump police. Those were.
Yeah.
That's because Donald Trump was in office then, and clearly there was a problem because can't trust the police when Donald Trump is in office. And that's once again. It just so bothers me that over the last 4 years, everything is pretty much turned on whether or not Donald Trump is for it or against it.
Exactly right.
If Donald Trump is for it, then the Democratic Party has to be against it. Whether it's hydroxychloroquine, whether it's the vaccine. Like, people wonder why so many people are refusing to get the vaccine. In particular, a lot of people of color, Latinos and blacks, are high numbers of them are refusing to get the vaccine. Well, I do seem to remember our vice president, then candidate for vice president, saying she wouldn't get the vaccine that came out of a Donald Trump administration.
That's right.
I mean, think about that. Think about how evil you have to be. How evil your mind has to be for you to say, to basically tell people, yeah, don't get this potentially life-saving thing, because they do believe the vaccine is life-saving. Now, if you don't want to get the vaccine, this is not a debate on vaccines. Let's just be clear. But if you believe something can save a life, you're going to tell people don't get it because the guy in the other party, orange man bad, make vaccine, take vaccine.
Listen, she's been bought and paid for a very long time and just wants the appearance of power. She'll do whatever you tell her to do and say whatever you tell her to say, as long as you give her that title, give her that position.
Exactly. And Joe Biden is no different.
No.
And now that he's got the title, once again, it's all about a nice, warm bowl of tapioca.
Yum, 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 Joe. Yum, yum.
All right, folks. Well, hey, going into our parting shots, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. We're hoping to be able to do this and bring different news stories and things like that. Here's what I want to encourage you to do. Go to our Facebook page, connect with us on Twitter, and let us know if there's any particular stories you'd like us to talk about on the show.
Hey, we'll do it. Listen, sooner or later, we're going to run out of topics, so we want to talk about what you want to talk about, because it's probably what we want to talk about, but sometimes, we can't find everything, so we need your help.
Exactamundo. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of the Rundown family. And remember to like and share these videos and tell your friends to do the same.